Alright, so this is a guide basically for language learners to stop being lazy. And I think before you click off because you think, oh, I'm not lazy, this doesn't apply to me, I would urge you just to stay and just listen, at least for the next slide, because it is likely that a lot of the problems you have with language learning are actually a result of you being lazy to an extent. So yeah, what this video is about, this video is basically for language learners who struggle with staying disciplined when it comes to learning. And the thing about this is you might read that and you might not actually know that that applies to you because it's not something you realize is happening. So a couple of examples of this kind of thing is skipping study sessions, giving up languages, taking huge breaks from a language you're learning, not writing out timetables, not learning as quickly as you'd like, etc. If you have any of those things, you do suffer from this a little bit. And the thing about that is, if you're not a perfect person, you suffer from this. It's absolutely okay. It is normal. No one's a perfect person, so it is normal to have a degree of laziness, but you do need to try and mitigate it as much as possible to become a better learner. That's what I've always said. It's okay to not be perfect, but it's not okay to stay exactly where you are and never make improvements. So, of course, you want to learn a language faster. Everyone does. This is one of the things you should try and implement to become that person who can learn a language quicker. So, a large contingent of these problems that I've just said above, and plenty more, and a lot of problems to do with language learning, is to do with laziness. So results are the product of the effort you put in. If you diminish the effort you put in, you will, by extension, diminish the results. So this video is going to be kind of an explanation as to how to become less lazy, and I'm actually going to go through it in detail and explain it all. And it is high quality education, so it's not a short rubbish video to entertain you. This is for people who want to watch this and then walk away and know exactly what to do to learn languages quicker and be less lazy and be more disciplined. A lot of this applies to everything as well, but this is to do with language learning specifically. So I don't want to waste your time. If you're not here to learn how to actually be a better language learner, which is exactly what this video is about and will do for you, just click off, because I'm not going to scam you and say, oh, watch the video and subscribe if it has nothing to do with what you're interested in. But if you are interested in that, you'd have to be silly to click off, because I'm going to actually explain to you how to beat this sin, this laziness, all right? So the two things we're going to discuss is how laziness is affecting your learning more than you think, so you can actually identify the problem. And then the second thing is obviously how to crush laziness, and probably more than 5 times your progress. You'd be surprised. Yeah, this has a lot to do with focus, which I've already made a video on, but yeah, we'll talk about this. At the end, I'll also tell you a little bit about the business I run. I will be transparent about that, but you are welcome to watch until the end and then click off before that if you're not interested in my coaching I do. So yeah, let's go. Laziness is affecting you. So, nobody's perfect, that's absolutely fine, we all know that. And whilst you're imperfect, some degree of laziness is going to be affecting you. Unless you're a literal robot, some degree of laziness is impacting how you study. So I want you to think of a diamond. When they pull it out of the ground, right, it doesn't look anything like a shiny diamond you'd see behind a glass case that you're not supposed to steal, but everyone wants to. It's like covered in rocks, it's covered in like just crap. It doesn't look that pretty because it's unrefined. It's got a small amount of diamond and it's got a lot of dirt and like rocks and mud and stuff caked around it. This diamond is effectively your efficiency for studying. Your studying probably at the moment more resembles this unrefined, dirty diamond that needs to be cut apart and polished and that kind of thing with a laser than it does the actual shiny diamond at the end, because you're not actually refining it. The amount of time you spend studying is not good enough, and you're not actually even concentrating in that time. That is why you're not learning as quickly as you'd like, and you have a lot of these problems, which I'll talk about more later. So the laziness you are having impacts your concentration as well. As in, when you're studying, if you're not entirely concentrating, you are not learning as quickly. If you're concentrating 50%, for example, the numbers are arbitrary, but if you're concentrating 50%, you're getting 50% the return, right? I'm sure you can wrap your head around that. So not following a consistent schedule, skipping study sessions, blah, 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 we already talked about all those things, that is all due to laziness. Unless you are 100% not lazy all the time, you're going to be doing some of these things, you're going to not want to do things some of the time, and that is what's impacting your language learning, and as well as impacting your ability to actually concentrate within the language learning session. And that's okay. As I said, it's okay to not be perfect, but here's how we mitigate that. So you need to refine the diamond. Basically, what refining the diamond is two things. One, You need to make sure you're studying more. That's just the quickest way to learn a language quicker. And you need to not be skipping sessions when you know you shouldn't be. And then the second part of that is while you're studying, you need to be concentrating and not being lazy, not getting up and looking at yourself in the mirror, not having to go to the toilet if you can. Just planning all these little things, like even when you drink water, things like that actually get in the way of you studying and distract you. That is how we refine the diamond, and it's all to do with becoming a more efficient user of time. So here is the actual cure to laziness, and the answer is discipline. You might not know what that word means, but here is the definition of discipline, in my opinion. It might not be identical to Google's, but I don't care. I'm smarter than Google anyway, so who gives a crap? Discipline is the power to make yourself do things you know are good for you, even when you don't want to do it. So think athletes, think anyone who has to train a lot for the returns in their career. Obviously, athletic, boxing. There's a business, there's a million other things. But yeah, that is kind of what you need to do with language learning. You're not always going to want to learn, but unfortunately, the gods of giving you the gift of language learning don't really care whether you want to do it or not, because if you don't put out when you need to and you don't actually learn, you're not going to get that return, that ROI, as people say, the return on investment of being able to speak that language efficiently. And if you only learn when you feel like it, that is, as I said before, a lower percentage of the effort you could be putting in, if that makes sense. So becoming a more disciplined person and forcing yourself to learn even when you don't feel like it in that moment is going to bring you a lot of great joy later on, because you will actually be able to learn quicker. So we've talked about how laziness is affecting you even when you're not thinking it is. Unless you're a perfect person, laziness is affecting you to some degree, and we need to try and reduce that as much as possible. So here is how we introduce discipline and defeat laziness effectively. So how do we build discipline? Crush it with discipline, I should have said first. How do we build discipline to beat procrastination and just feelings of not wanting to do it and that kind of thing? It's actually really straightforward. There's two words I kind of need to teach you about to build discipline. So bear with me. There is comfort zone and progressive overload. Comfort zone is basically the idea that there's a zone in which you're comfortable operating. So say you really, really like to, what's an example? You like to run, for example. You like running. You would be very comfortable potentially going for a 5k jog just on your own, and you wouldn't really mind if anyone looks at you, because you like running, you've done it a lot, you're used to it. However, if someone said to you, oh, you're going to have to run now, but I want you to do it in a race against people, and you only really like running on your own for fun with music in your ear, that is potentially pushing your comfort zone, because now you have to perform in front of people and there's people watching. What if you mess up? All these other things. You haven't done that very much. You're just used to running on your own. So that would be pushing your comfort zone, because you are you're doing something you don't usually do. It's outside of your normal range, your normal skill set, if that makes sense. That might seem a silly example, but that applies to a lot of things. That also applies to talking to people in a language you don't normally speak, which I've talked about before. I will have that pop up on the screen right now, that video, if you want to look at it afterwards. But yeah, comfort zone is just the idea of doing things you're not particularly comfortable with, not in a nefarious way, just to kind of push yourself and your confidence, because you need to kind of be, you want to be a better person, but unfortunately things are hard when you haven't done them before. And then the second word is progressive overload. That's actually a gym term. Progressive overload in the gym is where you increase the weight over time, so that way you get stronger. That's pretty obvious. Obviously, when you're in the gym, you slowly increase the weight over the months and years, and that's how you get stronger, because you can lift heavier things. That actually applies to a lot of things. That applies to language learning and learning anything particularly. You need to actually increase the task or the load that you have to bear over time to slowly raise your tolerance. So an example would be if you study once a week, which is not the best, but then you up that to twice a week, that's going to be a little bit difficult, but you're overloading it, and then you'll slowly get used to doing it twice a week, then you up it to 3 times a week, and you slowly get used to doing it 3 times a week, then you up it to 4 times a week. That's just a hypothetical example. So that's what progressive overload is. As you get used to it, you up it, and you slowly improve over time. So to build discipline, you must leave your comfort zone. That's the first word we talked about. If you stay in your comfort zone, nothing effectively changes, because your comfort zone is what you normally do anyway, and if you only do what you normally do, nothing changes. Very simple principle to get your head around. So this will be tough. To leave your comfort zone is never pleasant for anyone. Like, I remember I had a conversation with a person I'd never seen before, who happened to have an accent, and I just politely asked him, what country are you from, knowing he was from somewhere in Eastern Europe. And I was obviously very polite, because I know I'm conscious that some people might be uncomfortable if they're from Eastern Europe, saying that they are from there just because they might think someone's going to give them a hard time. So I was very polite, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm from Ukraine, but he spoke Russian, and I spoke very poor Russian because I actually had a mind blank at the time. But I forced myself to do it anyway, even though I'm only a student, someone learning Russian. I don't speak it properly yet. I only know some I only know like basic kind of easy-ish B1's A2 level stuff. I still spoke it to him, and that was outside my comfort zone, but I'm glad I did that, because now if I had to see another person I never knew before and they happened to speak Russian, I would more than certainly do a better job speaking to them, because I've pushed my comfort zone doing that. So that's just an example. That's what you're going to need to do with studying effectively. You're going to need to push how much you're comfortable, and this isn't pushing it. There's different ways to push it. There's pushing it in the fear sense, which is like you're a bit nervous to do something, like I was with talking to someone in a language I don't speak, who I've never met before. But there's also just the uncomfortable, like you don't, I'd rather lie in bed, I just don't feel like studying. You need to push yourself, so you're going to be a little bit uncomfortable studying more than you used to, because you don't feel like it, you want to do something else, but you just need to push yourself that little bit more out of your comfort zone. Over time, by doing this, your comfort zone will adjust. So you'll become, like I said before, if you go from studying once a week to twice a week, you'll become used to this, and it won't be difficult anymore. And that's when progressive overload, that's what PO stands for, by the way. It's too long to write the whole thing in every bloody time. That's where progressive overload comes in. You need to, instead of going, oh yeah, now 2 is easy, that's not good enough, now you push it to 3, and then you're back in the freezing water again. You're back into being uncomfortable, and then slowly you get used to 3, and then you move to 4, etc. As I said before, that is effectively how you build discipline in really anything, to be honest, but this is how it applies to language learning. So to start, here's what I want you to do. You watch this video as we agreed at the start. You're still watching it now, so you agreed when I said at the start this video is high quality education. So you can't back out now. To start, I want you to grab a pen and paper, or just something, so you can actually write down what you're going to do. The reason you're going to do this is because there's no escape. If you just think about it, you can just forget about it. But if you write it down, there's no getting rid of it unless you tear it up. And then you'll feel bad if you do. So this is how you actually build your discipline and become a better learner. So to start, grab a pen and paper, and just draw a line straight down the middle. Hold the paper, portrait or vertically, and just draw a line straight down the middle. You probably don't even need a full page, to be honest. You could do it with like a small notebook page. I want you to write on the left side of this line how much you're currently studying. Just on average. Don't lie and blow it up, but obviously you don't need to give yourself a hard time. If you study twice a week most weeks, and then this week you forgot to study, you don't have to write 0, because you usually do twice a week. Give yourself a fair number. If you're not sure, potentially be a little bit harsher just to yourself. That'll just make your life easier. And then what I want you to do is on the right, I want you to write how much you're going to increase it by. So you can increase it by sessions, you can increase it by percentage, you can increase it by the actual times you're studying. We'll talk about that a bit when we flip the page over. But yeah, I just want you to increase it. Be fair to yourself. You don't have to triple it. That's bad as well. We'll talk about that on the next slide when I give you a few tips to do this. But yeah, you need to make it just a little bit harder for yourself. Just push yourself, stretch your comfort zone, and that's how you get better at this. Now, once you've written on the right side of the page, you're welcome to pause the video at any of these if you want a little bit of extra time, so you can actually write this out properly. Now that you've done that, I want you to flip the page over so you're on the other side, and knowing how you need to increase it now, I want you to plan your next week. Just a rough plan. You can write a better one later if you want. So if you say, with that example, say you've done like one 1 hour session and one half an hour session, and you're pushing it is going to be pushing it to 2 1 hour sessions. It's a very small change, but that's fine. That's how we improve. Now that you know you want to do 2 1 hour sessions, you're going to write when you're going to do them ideally, and make sure they're not going to clash with anything else you've got on. You just plan them into your schedule. I'm just getting a drink of water. Feel free to write while I'm drinking water. All right. So it's going to be uncomfortable, as I said. Maybe potentially it won't be uncomfortable. There's a small chance you will enjoy it if you're just up for it, you feel like learning. But yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable, but then that's how you build discipline. So tip number 1, I would say, don't set goals that are too hard. If you only do 1 session a week, don't set a goal of you're going to do 2 sessions a day for the next week, 14 sessions. You're going to burn out. You can't do that. That's way too much of an increase. That's like if you're in the gym, obviously, where this progressive overload term comes from, and you're bench pressing 50 kilos, and you're like, effort, I'm going to take Ronnie Coleman, I'm going to go for a world title in bench press, and you up it to like 600, something ridiculous. That's silly. right? You can't go that, you're going to hurt yourself if you do that. And the same with this, you're going to be really, really down, and you might actually give up, which is not what you want. So don't set yourself a goal that's ridiculously hard, but by the same token, don't cheat yourself and go, oh, I'm going to do 5 minutes of extra study. That's too small of a goal. You're not even really stretching your comfort zone. You can put in a little bit more effort than that. I want you to do at least half an hour more study than you normally do. At least. Half an hour is a good number, I've found. So yeah, and then tip 2, I'd say keep your written goals in plain sight. The advantage of writing them down is that you can't forget about them. But if you lose the paper and then forget about it, you've effectively forgotten about it. So I want you to stick it to your desk where it's constantly in the way of everything. You can even make multiple copies if you want to stick them around. So you're constantly reminded this is your goal. And you might think this is going to make your life harder, but it's actually going to make it better, because when you actually do this, you'll be really, really proud of yourself that you were able to go through with this. And yeah, I think accountability is really rewarding to your happiness, because you know that you actually went through with what you said you're going to do. So yeah, eventually this adjustment will become easy. As I said, if you're going from 1.5 sessions to 1.5 hours of study a week to 2 hours, that'll become easy. Then you need to progressive overload, so you have to push it to 2.5 hours or 3 hours, that kind of thing. So yeah, you set a new goal, you make it harder again and again and again and again, and that's how you improve, that's how you build discipline, and that is how you beat language learning laziness, which everyone is suffering from, including me, even though I've mitigated it a lot. Everyone needs to improve. So yeah, congratulations, you've created discipline. You know the secret to doing it with everything. You can do this with the gym, you can do this with a job you have. I can't be bothered thinking of 6 other examples. Think of them yourself. And yeah, this will literally 5 times your progress. You think it won't? If you can, this skill alone is so useful, because now you can make yourself do more work, and you understand that you don't just have to give up immediately. So yeah, to conclude, you now know how to learn more efficiently by reducing your laziness and introducing discipline. For any questions at all, I do try and answer all of the comments, so absolutely feel free to comment down below and I will help you. I can give you some advice if you're having any problems and that kind of thing. As I said at the start, I'm going to talk a little bit about my online language coaching program. So if you are a beginner language learner, there is really nothing I could recommend you more than this. So if you like this video, which I presume you do because you watched all the way to the end, this is general advice. Remember, this is just general advice that I think applies to basically everyone. And if you introduce it, you will help yourself. But that's general advice. With specialized advice, if I can actually talk to you face to face and give you tailored advice to your individual circumstances, that is going to be 100 times better than any general advice someone who doesn't know you can give you, because that's the best they can do. They have to kind of generalize it to how everyone works and that kind of thing. But when the person actually knows you, they talk to you and you can tell them what your problems are, then that advice is fantastic, and that'll bloody push you further than anything ever. So I'm currently taking students over video call. It's really easy. We don't have to meet up or anything. So if you live in a completely different country, I'm not going to fly to the United States. We can just video call, and that works like that. So we can work through your language learning problems together. You can actually email me your problems. I'm happy to exchange emails with you, because you will have each other's email, obviously. And you can tell me your problems. You can tell me the language you're learning, and I'll actually go and research it and understand it, and then come back and explain that to you. And that's awesome, because I'll do that free of charge. So outside of our actual video call session, I will literally plan everything. I will have notes ready, and then when we actually have the call, you can get your money's worth, and you don't have to explain something to me. And I go, oh yes, I will look that up now and get an answer to you. I'll have all of your answers ready, and then we can actually talk. We can get the full advantage of talking to someone face to face, essentially. So yeah, we do have also a bunch of free bonuses. I think there's like 3 or 4. Yeah, there's at least 3 for sure. There might even be more free bonuses up now that I'm going to give you with the actual learning session. And yeah, it's a good way to make a strong ally as well, because I'm quite a good language learner and I do know a lot about it. So this is a good way to get into contact with me, and I'm happy to help you with anything else in the future and really just make a friend. So I would definitely recommend you look into it. It will absolutely boost your progress. It's unlike any other advice I could give you possibly on YouTube. A one-on-one FaceTime session will really help you with actually learning. You will just have to do it to understand. So yeah, it's super easy. It's actually really affordable at the moment as well. I'm charging less than most people you would meet would. And yeah, if you are interested, I'd definitely check the description below. I've got my email, I've got all the information about it. So yeah, highly recommend it if you're a beginner. If you don't want to do it, that's absolutely fine, but you will learn slower without someone telling you what your problems are and how to actually fix them. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. I would appreciate a like and subscribe because I do put a lot of effort into this for free to try and help you guys. And yeah, sue me if I just want to give you a little bit more of a hand if it means getting paid. So yeah, thank you guys. I do hope you enjoyed and have a good one.